Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today, we're going over a Stamina Warden DPS for the Deadlands build, and you can really run this build on just about any class, any stamina class, but I absolutely love it on the Stamina Warden, and it's no trial sets, and you can break 40k easily um, on a Warden with it. You can break 40k easily with a Warden on it. Normally, I tried this out on Sorcerer. My DPS ranges from 38 to 40k, so it just varies. But let's go ahead and get into it. Unbuffed, my stats are max health is 19.7k, maximum stamina is 33.4, stamina recovery is 1.7, weapon damage is 4.5, and weapon critical is 51.8%, and physical penetration is 4k. I am an orc, so my weapon damage is a little higher. I would suggest this either on an orc, just for that extra weapon damage. But you can also be a Khajiit if you want to. Personally, I'm liking the orc class for Deadlands patch. So, but I still have Khajiit characters, so it's up to you. You can really play this on any class, but I like it the best on the orc. So, 64 points into stamina. The food I'm running is lava foot soup and sultries. Boon I'm running is the thief. Don't worry about that. I just had to level up one of my skills, so I'll go over that. So fully buffed. I'll pop one of these. Pop a pot. This is without the weapon enchant on my back bar. My stamina recovery is 2.1 and my weapon damage is 5.2. With the weapon damage enchant and everything, I've seen my weapon damage get up to 5.7. That is self buffed when I'm in groups with, like, when I'm getting powerful assault, Yonarkins, or spell power cure, or lyriums. My weapon damage in most dungeons usually go up to, I think I've seen it at 7.4. And that is just the stat sheet. There's some damage I have here that does not show up on the stat sheet, and I will go over that when I get to it. So, champion points in the green tree, Gilded Fingers, Fortune Favor, just kind of staples. Wanderers here just to bridge the gap. 2 Steadfast Enchantment, basically just causes our enchantment to, when it procs, 50% chance to not proc it, or not to consume the charge. So, it's just nice to have. So, ones I keep on my bar: Treasure Hunter, increased quality of items you find in treasure chests, just really nice to have. And then I keep Liquid Efficiency on my bar. Whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. In some cases, I am using my weapon power pots, so I want to keep those. So, it's less gold. Even though weapon power pots are cheaper, like half the price compared to spell power pots. That kind of confuses me. But either way, I keep this on my bar. Plus, if you're using poisons, which you can use poisons if you want to, this gives you a chance to, 10% chance not to run one. And then, while I wait on dungeon queues and groups just to form, I keep Master Gather and Plentiful Harvest on my bar just for a 50% chance to get double resources from nodes and a 50% time reduction in getting those nodes. Now, if you don't really care about this, you can go with, like, Stead's Blessing, which will increase your out-of-combat movement speed by 20%. And you can also go with Rationer, add 30 minutes on your food or drink buff. It's up to you, but this is just what I like. So in the red tree, for the ones I keep on my bar, Balanced Vitality gives me an extra 1400 max health. Fortified gives me an extra 1.7 armor. Rejuvenation gives me an extra 90 health, magic, and stamina recovery. And then I keep Bloody Renewal, which every time I land the killing blow on an enemy, I get 1500 stamina back. This is really good to have if you're a solo play, because you will always get that extra 1500 stamina. So, passive wise, Defiance, reduced cost to break free. Tumbling, reduced cost to roll dodge. This one's in here. Mystic Tenacity, reduce the duration of elemental status effect applied to you by 25%. It's just there. Hero's Vigor is a really good one to have. It gives us an extra 560 max health. And then Hasty here gives us an extra 4% movement speed. And Sprinter, which reduces cost to sprint. So as we're running through dungeons, this makes sure I have stamina for abilities. Tireless Guardian reduces cost to block. Fortification, increases the amount of damage you can block. Savage Defense reduces cost to bash. And Bashing Brutality increases the damage of your bash. And then in this one, Nimble Protector increases our movement speed by 6% while we're blocking or bracing. And then, just for something I like to have, I usually put 10 points here because it's cheaper instead of, well, I guess that's 10 now too. I remember that being like 25 or something like that last patch. So, but 10 here, just bridge the gap to Temper Soul. Basically, when I get one-shot it, if I'm not paying attention or whatever, maybe the game lags up or freezes up. When I get res, this will give me 10% of my resources back. So, it's just nice to have. Outside of that, uh, honestly, I really don't know. Because a lot of the rest of these are just add to your bar. So, right now at this point, I'm just collecting red points. So, now in the blue tree, Precision gives us 320 critical chance. Tireless Discipline gives us 520 maximum stamina. And then Piercing gives us 700 offensive penetration. Battle Mastery gives us an extra 60% increased chance to apply martial status effect. And Mighty grants us 100 weapon and spell damage to martial attacks and affects physical, poison, disease, and bleed, which is awesome. I really like this passive and this one because they both come in handy for me, especially with this setup. But those are the passives that you should be shooting for. Now, when it comes to the ones on your bar, I keep fighting Finesse on my bar at all times because it increases my critical damage by 10%. So I keep this on my bar at all times. Then I have Biting Aura, increase your damage done with area effect attacks. Mastered Arms, increase your damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%. And Thermometers, increase your damage done with damage over time effects by 10%. Now, you can swap this out, Mastered Arms, for Deadly Aim, because we do have a lot of attacks that are single target. I know I have 4, but then I have a couple that are kind of single target, but at the same time, kind of do AoE damage as well. So it's a question. I know we have at least 4 or 5 single target attacks that you can definitely replace Master at Arms with. So if you wanted to, and then, but if you know you can stay behind the enemy in most 4-man content, you can use Backstabber. Like if I know I can stay behind the boss, I will drop Biting Aura, or not Biting Aura, but Master at Arms for Backstabber because it gives me an extra 15% critical damage. So this is really nice. So just up to you. This is what I used on the DPS test dispatch to showcase in the build, or the numbers that I got. This is the setup that I used. But you can also replace Master at Arms with Deadly Aim, or just drop Master at Arms altogether for Backstabber. If you use Backstabber, your DPS test will be a lot higher because you'll get that more crit damage. But you can't always use it in pug groups, so I didn't bother to use it in the test. So, you know what I mean? So, sets. I love Pillar of the Nern. This comes from Falkreath. I've used it multiple times on Warden just because it has that naturey feel. But with this patch, with Deadlands, they are now allowing proc sets to crit again. So this set can crit now, or crit again. They used to be able to crit. So I've been running it again, and it's absolutely fun. I'm running it 1 Nern, 1 Precise. You can go charge, but it puts me below 50% crit, so I went 1 Precise. Now, if you're using, I will say, let me just go down here real quick. If you are using Harpooner's Welding Kilt, then I would use, in that Precise Dagger, change it to Charged. Or Infused if you want to, one of them. But I would go with Charge myself. Or you can leave it Precise if you want more crit. But this would require you not to run a monster set. So if you don't have this, don't want to bother with farming this, you can just keep the build like it is. But if you have this, of course, I would just change the Precise on the offhanded dagger to Charge. That's just my opinion. Now, we're running this dual daggers, Nern Precise, 1 with poison, 1 with flame. If you're having trouble sustain, which I don't have any at all myself, you can run like an absorb stamina enchant where the flame or poison, give up 1. I would probably give up the flame myself. But just judgment call, whichever one you would rather get rid of. So, and then we run jewelry, 2 robust, 1 bloodthirsty. Now, originally I was running 3 robusts, but my youngest decided he wanted to play and destroyed my one of my rings of Pillar of Nern, so I just reconstructed this, and I figured, because I didn't feel like farming for another one, I just went ahead and made it bloodthirsty. And that's really it. You can absolutely get away with robust. You're still not going to have any trouble, but bloodthirsty, 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, 3 bloodthirsty, whatever you want. I will say if you're running the 2 bloodthirsty, 1 infused, you will break 40k every time, no matter what. But without it, then sometimes you're going to hit that 38 mark. So you somewhere between 38 and 40 with robust, but with two bloodthirsty, one infused, you'll be looking at somewhere between 40 and 44 almost every time. So what Pillar of the Nern does? It comes from Falkreath Hold, and what this does is it gives us max stamina, weapon critical, weapon damage, and spell damage. But when you deal damage, you create a fissure underneath the enemy after 1 second, dealing 3.8k bleed damage to all enemies within 2.5 meters, and causing them bleed for an additional 17.6k bleed damage over 10 seconds. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds, and it scales off the higher of your weapon and spell damage. Now, without anything else going, I'm just going to get weapon, major brutality going. This goes up to 4.5 and a 20.7. I've been in dungeons. I've taken this in trials where the tanks, powerful assault, Yarnarkins, Lyrium, where I'm getting a ton of buffs to my weapon damage in general just for the people that I'm in there with. And I've seen this up to 29k. It was like 29.2. So it can get high and it can crit. So, but by yourself, for the most part, you're going to be looking at 22 with your weapon damage proc. So it's a huge dot. In a good group, you're going to get somewhere between 25k normally. But an optimal group, you're going to get closer to 30k dot. Plus it crits, so it's absolutely wonderful to have. This comes from Falkreath Hold. Very easy to farm. You do want the daggers though, and then because it just runs with the sets. So on our back bar, we have a Maelstrom Greatsword infused with a weapon damage enchant. I am not running Perfected. You can get Perfected if you want. It will give you more penetration on your back bar. But what this does is dealing damage with critical charge causes enemy to bleed for 9.2. Bleed damage over 7 seconds. This effect scales off the higher your weapon or spell damage. And like I said, this scales, and I've seen this up to a 13k bleed dot. So, it's awesome. Now, this comes from normal Maelstrom Arena. Just go in there and farm it. It might take you a few runs, but with the changes to the RNG system, you have a certain number of runs that you'll have to take in order to get it. But it shouldn't take you too long. So, monster set. We're running Storm Fist. We're running 2 light divines with max stamina. So, this comes from Tempest Island. It's one of the easier sets to get. I've tried out multiple sets with it, but Storm Fist, it's just, I don't know. I like Storm Fist a little bit. It gives us stamina recovery, which helps with our sustain, and then when we deal damage, we have a 10% chance to create a Thunder Fist to crush the enemy, dealing 1.5k shock damage every 1 second for 3 seconds to all enemies within 4 meters, and a final 16.2k physical damage. When the fist closes, this effect can occur once every 8 seconds and scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Again, like I'll show you this, and along with the Greatsword. So, just that off alone, 1.7, 17.3, and the bleed on the back is a 10.8k dot. So these dots are, they get up there. So these are worth using. Now, Stormfist comes from Tempest Island. It is one of the more easier dungeons to get into, to get done. The final boss can be trouble, but as long as you hug her, you shouldn't have any issues beating her. Basically, you just hug her, and then when she does her AoE, you back out, and then you run back in. It's very easy to do. Not really too complicated. Now, if you've got people running around and keeping their distance between her and like that 5-7 meter range, she's going to charge, she's going to kill them, it's going to kick up dust clouds. So it can be complicated. And if it is complicated and that starts to become a problem, then just go with the next easier set to get, which is Cracks, which will give you some offensive penetration, and you deal damage. You have a 10% chance to spawn Dreg Limbs that create shockwaves in front of you, dealing 1.4k physical damage every 0.6 seconds for 2.4 seconds. That can occur once every 6 second scales. So I've seen this get up to 2.7 to 3.4. So they do quite a bit of damage, and it does give you a little bit more penetration. If you don't want to run that, Celine's is a really good alternative. Maximum stamina. When you deal martial melee damage, you call upon a Primal Spirit. Mauls the enemy in front of you after 1.3 seconds for 8.8k physical damage. Effect can occur once every 6 seconds. Scales off your higher weapon and spell damage. So these are probably the 2 easiest ones to get. Or you can just go with something, 2 pieces, like Slime Crawl. 1 piece Slime Crawl gives you critical chance. And then something like Grindelwolf, or another set that just gives you critical chance. So, or if you feel like you need a little bit max stamina, you can go with something like Celine's. You can also get Cellatrix here, max stamina. It does stun the enemy, but the dot isn't really, it's nowhere near compared to the rest. but it does offer a little stun. So that's the monster sets. Now, the 5-piece set that we keep static at all times. It's actually kind of fun. I'm loving it. I'm probably going to gold it out and see how high I can hit. See if I can break that 45, 47k pretty consistently. Or, yeah. So, Drozarkers. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Drozarkers Claws. This is a medium set from Moongrave. And basically, we're running it all in the body, all divines. I am trying out some things because I farmed it a little bit more and just recently got a dagger. So I want to see having it front barred with like some of the major trial sets, like Reliquins and stuff like that on stamina. See how that works out for me with this setup. But right now, I'm just trying it out with non-trial sets, easy to get sets, and see what happens. Now, what this set does, it gives us offensive penetration, gives us critical chance, stam recovery, which helps even more with our sustain. And then the 5-piece gives us weapon, 124 weapon and spell damage at all times. But the other 5-piece, for every bleed effect you have on an enemy, increases your weapon and spell damage by 99 against them. Golded out, I think this goes up to 104. So I think I want to try golden this out and see what I can hit. But I also don't know if I just want to use the weapons and jewelry. Questions? But so far, I'm loving this. Now we got to have a bleed effect on them in order to get that extra 99. Now this does not show up on the stat sheet. It will just show up on the target that we're hitting. Now we get a bleed effect from both of our other sets. We get a bleed from Stampede using the Maelstrom, so that's 1. And then it also counts the bleed from Pillar of the Nirn, so that's 2. Not counting the skills that we have on our bars. So we'll go over that. Plus, just a heads up, if you want to use poisons, just use ground lethal poisons. There's tons of them, but that's just me. If you don't like these enchants, just use ground poisons. So now the skills that we're running, my main spammable when I'm by myself or when I'm DPS testing is Bloodthirsty. We flood an enemy with Steel Batter and then with 5 consecutive attacks that each deal 1.4k bleed damage and heals you for 32% of the damage caused. The final hit deals 300% more damage. Now, when I'm in groups and I know somebody is using a lightning staff, or maybe I'm with a sorcerer that's using nothing but lightning staffs or whatever, and I can get off balance, I use Cutting Dive, because what Cutting Dive does is I command a Cliff Racer to dive bomb an enemy, dealing 8.5k bleed damage. If you're more than 7 meters away from the target, you set them off balance for 7 seconds. If the enemy is already off balance, the Cliff Racer rips through them, causing them to bleed for 8.7k bleed damage over 7 seconds. So, if you hit them 7 meters away, they will go off balance. But then, when you hit them again, it will cause the bleed. But when you're up close to them, like when you're DPS testing, you're not going to be that far away. So that bleed will never get procced, because we don't really have anything that can proc off balance in the kit ourselves. So I don't DPS test with this. If you DPS test with this, it's going to lower it a good little bit. It's not a whole lot. It's just a couple. I think I was like 3.1k lower than just using Flurry. But that may just be a fluke, and I went ahead and switched it back out with Bloodfur. So, Rending Slashes. Slice an enemy with both weapons to cause deep lacerations, dealing 2.9k bleed damage with each weapon, and causing them to bleed for an additional 9.4k bleed damage over 10 seconds. We also reduce their movement speed, but that's not a big deal. But this is another bleed dot, so that's 3. And then we have Growing Swarm. Unleash a swarm of Petriflies to relentlessly attack an enemy, causing them to bleed for 14.6k bleed damage over 10 seconds. The flesh fly rips through the original enemy's flesh, afflicting them with minor vulnerability for the duration, increasing damage taken by 5%. Enemies near the carrier take 1.7k bleed damage every 2 seconds for the duration. So this is kind of like a nice little AoE bleed, but it's another bleed damage. So that's 4 in general. Plus it applies minor vulnerability, which is just awesome. Then we have Barbed Trap. Set a sharpened blade trap, the location, which takes 1.5 seconds to arm. But when triggered, the trap deals 4.7k bleed damage and an additional 17k bleed damage over 18 seconds, and grants you minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10% for the duration. So this is just going to make our critical damage do more damage, but it is another bleed dot. So that is 5 right there. Now, Camo Hunter, it's on a bar to give us major savagery, and it also gives us minor berserk. It also increases our stat sheets a little bit just because of Fire Guild passive. But if you are using trash bots, put Camo Hunter on your bar. Because we get major brutality from our Netch, and we can get major savagery from Camo Hunter, so you can use trash pots. But if you're using weapon power pots, now keep in mind, you get more stamina back for this. You also get major savagery and you get major brutality, but you're going to continue to use the Netch anyways because it helps with sustain. But with this, we're getting major savagery, and we don't get that from trash pots, so replace Camouflage Hunter with Birds of Prey. It's going to give us minor berserk, but with the passive in the animal companion line, it's going to give us, it's going to increase our damage done by an extra 2% just for having that ability slotted. So that's an extra 4% damage. It's an extra 4 base, 4% modifier to our damage. So actually performs, I would say a little bit better. Just a couple 100 points, but it is a little bit better. So now we have Rend. This is our ultimate. We slash enemies in front of you, causing them to bleed for 52.2k bleed damage over 16 seconds, and heals you for 50% of the damage done. There is the other morph. Can't remember what it's called. But basically, the more enemies you hit, the stronger the bleed is, but I think it only lasts for like 8 seconds. Or like somewhere between 6 and 9 seconds, I would say. That's great, but this lasts for 16, and it also heals us. So instead of, with this being our ultimate, usually it's 150. Usually within that 16 seconds, we're usually at about 100, 120 ultimate, depending on what's going on around us and the sets that, the other people in the group. But because of that, we get 16 seconds of that extra 100 weapon damage to a bleed enemy. Plus the heal, plus it's just a huge dot. So just with major brutality alone, Ren is 57.6. So it's a very, very big dot. Very lovely. Now, on our back bar, we got Dawnbreaker here. This is just here for some extra weapon and spell damage from our Fire Skill passive. That's it. That's the only reason why this is here. If you want to use it, you can use it. It's 125 ultimate, but honestly, I would wait for the extra 25. That's like, an extra rotation or two, and then you'll be able to use Rend again. So if you just need it for, maybe the boss has got 10% left and you're just wanting to drop a big ultimate for a little extra weapon damage, you get 300 for 18 seconds. Go ahead and use it. So then we have Camo Hunter again on our back bar. We do have it double barred, just so we can keep that major savagery up at all times. So, and then we have Resolving Vigor. Let loose the battle cry, installing yourself with Resolve and healing for 17.5k health over 4 seconds. It's just our nice little heal. We get this from PvP, or it's from the Assault and Support skill line, which is now very easy to get. It's the very first one you get. So all you got to do is go in and do the tutorial quest about repairing weapons, and we're just running around the map a little bit. Maybe takes 5 minutes at the most, and you'll have this. But if for whatever reason you do not want to step into PvP at all, you got Fungal Growth. You can take it and morph it into Soothing Spores here. It'll give you a nice 8.1k heal, and heals for 15% more on allies that are within 8 meters of you. This is a straight line effect, so it will hit people in front of you. Now, Living Vines is also a decent one. A Lotus Flower. Honestly, I would go with Lotus Flower, so that way your light attacks heal you every time you light attack weave. Or you can just go with Arctic Wind, morph it to Polar Wind. The initial heal also heals a nearby ally. It's a nice little heal. I don't think it's this will add a little extra damage if you want a little extra frost damage. But these heals are nothing compared to Vigor. Vigor is double the fungal growth, and it's about 3 times more than the Arctic Wind. So personally, I would just do the tutorial and get this. Then we have the Blue Netch. Call a Blue Netch to your side, which restores 5k stamina to you over 25 seconds. Grants you major vitality and sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20%. So with the Bull Netch and Camouflage Hunter on both bars, we can use trash bots. So we get major savagery and major brutality. And then every 5 seconds, the Netch removes 1 negative effect from you. So this is just here for resource management plus major brutality, so we can get away with trash bots. So even if you're using weapon power pots, use Bull Netch. It helps you so much with sustain. Like, you have no idea. It is so helpful. Plus, Anytime one of your animal companion skills ends, you are healed for 1.2k health. So, as you can see, I'm at 19.7k health. If I've taken some damage, I'm going to heal, but also with this, I'm going to trigger another one of my passives. I believe that passive is in this one, which basically, let's see, where is it? When you activate a heal on yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing their max health by 10% for 20 seconds. And it's very easy to proc this. This stuff will go away here shortly. There it is. So all you gotta do, you hit it once, and you can hit it again, and it will instantly proc it. As you can see, it just keeps resetting that minor toughness to 19 seconds or 20 seconds. So all you gotta do before you go into battle, you just boop boop, hit it twice, and there you go. You have more health. So now, Stampede. This is with the Maelstrom Greatsword. We launch across the earth and smash an enemy, dealing 8.6k physical damage. Well, hold on. Once my Major Brutality goes away, that'll give a base stat line. So I don't want you to be looking at that without having Major Brutality on and seeing something different. So, sorry if you can hear my little kitten in the background. But launch across the earth and smash an enemy, dealing 7.8k physical damage to them and all nearby enemies. This attack always a critical strike. After reaching your target, you sunder the ground beneath you, dealing 2.1k physical damage to all enemies in the area every 1 second for 10 seconds. Now, this in itself is not a bleed damage, but when you pair it with the Maelstrom Greatsword, it becomes a bleed damage for 7 seconds. So we do still get that bleed. Now, if you don't have the Greatsword, if you do not have the Greatsword, this is not going to be a bleed effect. But the Maelstrom Greatsword, the Battle Axe increases your crit damage, and the Maul increases your penetration. But this will increase our weapon and spell damage while we're on our back bar. I think it's like 250 something. So, or 284. There you go. And then axes will increase your critical damage by 12%, and mace increase your armor penetration by 3,300. So just pick whichever one you want to go with. So, and then we have Carve. Focus your strength into a mighty swing, dealing 7.5k bleed damage to enemies in front of you, and causing them to bleed for an additional 8.6 bleed damage over 12 seconds. The bleed stacks up to 3 times. You also gain a damage shield that absorbs 6.1k damage for 6 seconds. Now, I did not, on this test, I did not stack Carve 3 times. I didn't, because I went straight into my Flurry from my Spamble. So, but for the most part, if you can do, if you can get that Carve stacked 3 times, you will deal more damage. And that's just kind of how that goes. So, now, I know this looks a little strange, but like I said, the main thing is just keep in mind, if you're using weapon power pots, replace Camouflage Hunter with Birds of Prey. And if you're running in groups, like doing pugs, random dungeons, or running a trial or something like that, clearly somebody's in there going to have a lightning staff, or somebody's going to be able to proc off balance. Replace Flurry with Cutting Dive, and you'll see an increase in your damage. Now, DPS wise, 38.2. It's relatively on the low end for today. I just kind of did a quick one for the video, but for the most part, if you have 1 infused, 2 bloodthirsty, or full bloodthirsty, you will always hit 40k every time. This build is ridiculous. So, me, I like to buff up, drop trap, stampede, light attack, carve, bar swap, swarm, light attack, rending, and then I just cast flurry a few times. You'll see Stormfist and them going. And then I just repeat the process. Stampede, carve, swarm. My bad, I hit rending slashes. Then if you have your ultimate, use rend, and then just keep it going. Use flurry, and then just keep your ups. Every 2 rotations, you're going to use your Betty Netch. So when you know you're getting to that 2nd rotation, instead of doing like 3 flurries, do 2. Fire swap, Netch. You can animation cancel this too just by hitting block. Or you can stampede, carve, then hit Netch, and then rotate. And then as you see your bar trap ending, you just kind of do that. And then you'll just replace one of these abilities with flurry. So at first, every other rotation you'll have 3 flurries, and then you'll have 2 with the Betty Netch being replacing one, and barb trap replacing the other, and then use rent when you can use rend, you're probably going to get maybe 2, maybe 1 flurries, depending on if bar trap or betting niche or the bull niche is ending. But either way, you will have no problem. This is a very easy setup to get. 38.2 with Bloodthirsty and Infused, you will have no issues hitting 40k. With everything golded out, I'm also going to try this out with jewelry and Drozarkers with weapons and jewelry and see how that goes too. But you can run this on any class, but personally I like the Warden because they have Swarm, and Swarm is a built-in dot. Outside of that, you can do this on Sorcerers, Templars, Nightblades. You can do it on all because our bleed effects, two-handed, dual wield, cutting dive here, so they get 2 extra bleed effects that they can do. So they will get like roughly an extra either 208 or an extra 189, I think, or 188, something like that, weapon damage. So it's up to you on what you really want to run. It's how you want to do it. You can do this with any class, but rending slashes, bar trap, rend, dual wield, fire skilled, dual wield, two-handed. So the main ones that will at least give you 500 or so extra weapon damage to bleed effects are all from regular tree lines, and then just with cutting dive and swarm is an extra 2 on the Warden. So I believe the build is best for the Warden, but you can really run it on any class. So yeah, so that is this whole bleed effect type build. If you like it, let me know in the comments. If you hate it, let me know in the comment section. If you want to see more, like and subscribe. And until next time,